Hello, I'm Stephanie Briggs, and I'm thrilled to welcome you today to Feminine Emergence. I am so glad that you're here. I created this event for you to activate your healing and awaken your inspiration. And it's time to bring forth our whole selves, creating space within us and around us for the feminine to reemerge. And by showing up today, you are joining a rising tide of heart-centered humans from all across the globe who are coming together for the purpose of changing ourselves and changing the world. We are bringing a new vision into form, birthing a world in which there's room for all of us to live and thrive. And this is truly sacred work. And so I'd like to invite you now to join me in taking a few deep breaths to drop deeper in. And with gratitude for this breath, for this moment, for all those in body and spirit who have made this event possible, I pray that this gathering will create a wave of profound and miraculous healing and transformation that will ripple out for the liberation and highest good of all beings. I offer this now with love and in service of the earth and the spirit of life. May it be so. And to move us forward, I'd just like to offer a song today, very briefly. This is a song that was written by Shauna Carroll. We are the people at the full height of our power. This is the place, and now is the hour. We recognize our sacred words. We have the power to transform the earth. We are the people at the full height of our power. This is the place, and now is the hour. So once again, my name is Stephanie Briggs, and I'm your host for Feminine Emergence. And just to tell you a little bit about me, I am a counseling astrologer, intuitive healer, transformational life coach, writer, and speaker. And through my company, Heart Blossom, I work with empaths, intuitives, and sensitive people who are on the path of awakening, healing, and empowerment. I especially love working with women who feel a call to be heart-centered leaders, creating change and making a positive impact in our world. My mission is to be an agent of transformation and evolution of the collective consciousness by activating and empowering individuals. I started Heart Blossom out of my desire to support people in connecting with and bringing forth the wisdom of their hearts. Using a unique blend of astrology, integrative trauma therapy, spiritual counseling, intuitive energy healing, and other modalities, I offer a safe and supportive presence for my clients to come into greater expression and embodiment of their highest potential. My goal is to help my clients know and accept their authentic selves and the gifts they hold, to trust in their own intuitive wisdom and show up and put those into action. I also love teaching people how to use astrology and other tools to access their innate intuitive abilities. And in my work, I draw on my training in body-centered psychotherapy and energy healing, my studies of art, mythology, astrology, and psychology, other esoteric arts, as well as my lifelong interest and passion for understanding the human condition and what I've learned on my own journey as a highly sensitive empath. And I'm guided by the words of Howard Thurman, who said, "Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive." And since I committed to cultivating and expressing my own aliveness, my life has become infinitely more magical. Just a few fast facts. I was born and raised in Rochester, New York, and I'm now based in the Hartford, Connecticut area. And in addition to my work with Heart Blossom, I am a lifelong singer and a highly creative soul, and I love to serve as a channel to bring more beauty into the world. I'm grateful for my earth-centered spiritual practice that grounds me in a relationship of deep love with Mother Earth and all the beings of creation. And I'm a Libra and an INFJ personality type, and I love flowers, dancing, and eating cheese. So I'm going to be speaking to you today about existential healing and illuminating the whole of who you are. And I'm going to be helped out today by my dear friend Jocelyn Mercado, who has agreed to help out and serve as my interviewer today. So welcome, Jocelyn. Thank you so much for being here and helping out with this.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm so excited to be a part of your beautiful event.
Yay!
Yeah. So could you begin today by sharing with us a little bit about your journey of feminine emergence and what inspired you to create this event?
Yes. So it kind of goes back to when I was a kid. I was very sensitive. I was kind of weird. I was shy and I didn't really relate to my peers. So I experienced a lot of bullying from other kids, as well as a really stressful home environment with my family. And so I just really had this pattern of being shy and of hiding who I was, as well as really having no boundaries. I learned to be a people pleaser, and I was always trying to be a good girl, to do what I was told, to follow the rules, to perform well, to be smart, to get good grades, be pretty, like everything that you're supposed to be. I thought that that's what I had to do in order to be loved and accepted. And I didn't really understand what my gifts were, or, I just didn't feel that I was welcome on Earth. I felt like kind of like an alien, and I didn't know why I was here. And throughout my life, I struggled with a lot of anxiety and sometimes really deep depression. And, there have been times in my life where I was suicidal. I just thought, I don't want to be here on this planet. I don't belong here. It's scary here. People are mean. This is like too much for me. And so that kind of continued all through my 20s. I went to college, I got a degree, I went into a business job working in the legal field, and I just was kind of going through the motions. And I didn't really have a sense of who I was or what I wanted to do or what I could do. I just thought okay, this is my life and I'm just taking what I get. And, I got married and I was in this relationship, and I just was really going down the established track. And then in 2013, I took a trip to New Mexico, and I was just in awe. It was this amazing landscape. I'd never seen any place like this. It was so magnificent and magical. And I started connecting with nature, and I started feeling more alive, and I felt like I could breathe in this place. I could just belong here or exist here in some way that I just never had. And so I went home from the trip and I thought, what the heck am I going to do now? I can't be in this world anymore. This world, what my life was at home. It felt really empty, and I felt trapped. I felt like I'm in this life. This is not my life. This is not authentic. There's something more out there. And so I started to make a series of hard choices to kind of break free. I ended my marriage, I moved, and I started really spending a lot more time alone and exploring and connecting with nature a lot and developing my sense of my spiritual connection to nature. And then eventually I sought out some community to connect with people about my spirituality. I met all my people. I started to realize people like me when I'm really myself. I always thought I had to be somebody else. And then I realized I could be myself. So that was all really great. And then I kind of got to my next challenge of being in a relationship that initially I thought, this person is my soulmate. This is all my dreams coming true. Finally, here I am. And as somebody who's been very relationship oriented all my life, this was just the be all end all. And then as time went by, I came to understand that it was not what I thought it was. It was actually very toxic, situation, and it really took a toll on me. And so then I had to find a new level of strength to get myself through and out of that situation. And through that process, I understood that I had a lot of healing to do. I understood that my childhood experiences and even experiences in past lifetimes had led me into this experience. And this was really a wake-up call for me to see, the ways that I was not honoring myself and looking out for myself and keeping myself safe. And so through moving through that process, I really just focused on my healing. And then eventually I started my company Heart Blossom to bring my passion for astrology and connection with people more into the front of my life. And as far as why I'm offering this event, it was really inspired by another trip I took to New Mexico, where I was at a place called Eagle Nest Lake with an amazing teacher named Woman Stands Shining. She's a Dene elder and just an incredibly wise person who was really instrumental on my journey. And she invited us to connect with the waters and to pray and to ask for guidance about how we're meant to serve. And so I did this, and I wasn't really sure, is this really real? Is this just something I'm making up in my head? But what I got was this image of Venus rising from the waters. If you know that Botticelli painting with the Venus on the clamshell, she's just there. And so I didn't really know what to make of that. And so I just kind of put that on the back burner. And I decided I wanted to create this online event because I see that our world is so out of balance. And the feminine in all of us, not only women, has been diminished. And we just can't live without it. We need to come back to our hearts, to our bodies, and to the ground. And we need community. And so I was inspired by this image of Venus rising, of the feminine rising out of the waters. And so I wanted to get these messages out there for all the women who are waking up, who are struggling, and who want more aliveness. And I wanted to let them know that there is something more that's possible for them, that they have wisdom, they have strength and power all their own, and that they are magic. And so that's why I'm here today.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And I just love your message and what you have lived out of not settling, right? Not settling for what this mainstream modern world says that we're supposed to be doing. So,
yeah. It's really, there's just so much more out there if you have the courage to look for it.
Yes. So you say that so many women, and in particular those who are sensitive and empathic, are struggling with what you call issues of existence, in which, we're hiding or we're staying small or holding back. So could you say some more about that and what is at the root of this struggle that we feel?
Yeah. So this, as I mentioned, this has been a struggle for me, and I see it as such a common issue for women and everybody who's very energetically sensitive or empathic. And so, first of all, I just want to explain what I mean by existence. So what this means is that we're here on Earth in a body, and we're energetically grounded. We're sovereign, and we are in possession of our personal power to move through the world and co-create our reality. So basically, the reason I think that we have existence issues is that this is a response to trauma, that we've actually kind of disengaged from this embodied experience of humanity. And this is a result of this trauma and this violence that women in particular have experienced both individually and on a collective level. So we're living in a patriarchal system in which, broadly speaking, the masculine is dominant and the feminine is oppressed. So what this looks like is that so-called masculine qualities, thinking and using logic to figure things out, being physically dominant, taking action, are lifted up as good. And feminine qualities, feeling, being guided by the heart, gentleness, presence, intuition, are portrayed as bad or weak or worthless or less than. And so those who embody the masculine are prioritized. We learn that men are supposed to be the ones leading. They're smarter and they know best. And of course, there's also a toxic quality to this masculinity. It's all about competition. This is like a zero sum. There's a winner and there's a loser, and it's all about power over. And so in order to operate and be successful in this paradigm, someone has to be disconnected from their heart, from their emotions, and from their empathy to see the impact of this power that they're having over other people. And so for those of us who are assigned male at birth, they're expected to show up in this way. Don't cry, be a man, get it done. And this creates a tremendous depth of wounding and disconnection. And there's this pressure to be tough. And then this cycle continues because this wounding happens. And as we know, hurt people hurt people. And so these individual people are trying to succeed, and they're just kind of stepping on others, keeping others down, taking action on their own behalf and disenfranchising other people. And then for women and those of us assigned female at birth, we learned that we're supposed to be small and quiet and caring for other people and kind of selfless. And also we're supposed to be pretty and perfect and keep it all together and make it look easy. And we're supposed to fall in line with this paradigm of this duality between masculine and feminine, even though those of us who embody the feminine are taught that we are inherently less than. And we would also be shamed if we were to display the qualities that are considered more masculine. You'll see it a lot of times, like women who are very powerful and assertive, they're, people say, oh, she's a bitch, she's mean, whatever. And so there's that shaming that happens that kind of like makes you not bring forth this, the full picture. So I want to note that, in fact, all humans naturally have masculine and feminine energies, and that this either or paradigm is actually false. Research has even shown that not only does gender exist on a spectrum, but so does biological sex. But because of this paradigm that we've been in, there have been centuries of violence against women and the feminine, and it is still happening today. In Europe, for example, there was the Inquisition and the witch trials that tortured and murdered tens of thousands of people, largely women. And there's a whole religious and political context to that situation that I won't get into here, but essentially it was a genocide of healers and all those who held Europe's indigenous spirituality and knowledge. And that trauma really never got healed. And so it's still with us, and it has led to just a lot more violence by way of colonialism, as well as creating a spiritual void in which science and empirical knowledge has become the only real truth. And that if we can't measure it, it doesn't exist. Everything has to be categorized as this or that. And the earth and all non-human creatures are essentially objects for us to use. And I do want to just briefly acknowledge that a lot of my understanding of this cycle is a result of what I learned from Woman Stands Shining. So how does this paradigm and this programming continue? Again, as I mentioned, it happens through individuals, and it starts in our childhood with our families. That's because trauma isn't just a concept. It actually lives in us, in our bodies. So as children, we are energetically open. Even while we're still in the womb, we are absorbing our mother's experience of life. And then even after we're born, for the first part of our lives, developmentally, we don't actually have a separate sense of self. So as an infant, as a newborn, I don't understand that I'm a separate individual from my mother. And this is by design, because children, actually have to bond to their parents. Children are helpless, and so they need caregivers to survive, and this bonding is part of how that works. But the problem can be when that children will bond to whatever is there, whatever is present in these caregivers, and even if it's abuse, even if it's a caregiver who's depressed, who's really stressed out, like whatever that is, children have no choice. We have to bond to something, otherwise we will literally die. And so children are also always learning. And our experience in the first few years of our lives really shapes our worldview. And so as we get to the point in our development when we're actually meant to start individuating, to understand that I'm separate from you, if that I have a boundary from you, that's what this separation is about. I have a body and you have a body, and they're, they may be in relationship, but they're not one and the same. And so if at this point we are met with any kind of energy that is not supportive of this being fully alive, of having all our feelings, of having our boundaries, and of being authentically who we are, we basically learn that it's not safe to have all of that, to be who we are. It's not safe to exist, to be fully embodied. And so when this happens, we will start to automatically suppress the parts of ourselves and our experience that are not welcome. And that's how we survive. And it's really amazing that we know how to survive in this way. Like, our spirit knows just what to do to protect ourselves and to minimize any threats. And this actually happens in the body. It happens through tension patterns that we begin to have that limit the flow of energy in certain areas of our body. So imagine, for example, that you're somewhere and you're at like a serious meeting, and for whatever reason, you get the urge to laugh. Now, this is like an inappropriate time. You should not be laughing right now. And then imagine what you would have to do in your body in order to hold that laugh in. There's like a lot of tension. There's a lot of energy that you are using to keep that tension, to keep the laughter in and stay calm and composed. So this is just like an example of how this can work for a kid. And it's not necessarily conscious. It probably isn't conscious. It's just what the child will naturally do. And so if there's violence of any kind in the home in particular, if there's physical violence or there's shouting, any kind of verbal altercations, arguments, controlling behavior, kids will actually dissociate, which means they energetically leave the body during an experience that is too scary to be with. And that leads to a pattern over time, if this happens a lot, of basically like living in your head, disconnected from your body, kind of just like spacey. And this also happens with kids who are neglected because there's nobody to bond to. And this is so damaging to kids, and it's just really common with intuitives. It's an effective way to hide. That's why it's used as a survival response, because you're energetically staying small and you're avoiding detection. So you're not triggering any assault from the environment. So like if I'm not really here with all of me, if I'm keeping my real self concealed, if I freeze and I stay really quiet, then I'm safer. And then for empaths who are highly sensitive to emotional energy, we are especially vulnerable to violence on any level, even what I would call held violence, which means that it's not directly expressed by the other person. But because we're empaths, we learn to read other people and attune to them. Like, we can sense what's going on within, even if they're not just directly putting it out there. And so a lot of us were parentified, which means we're emotionally caretaking our parents, because we could sense when they were upset, we could sense when something wasn't right with them. And because we're kids, we thought, this is my fault. That's just what kids will think. They don't realize that, they still don't realize how fully separate they are, that this isn't about me. And so then you will try to caretake your parents. You will try to adjust how you are to make them better. And so in this way, we're not really getting the chance to develop our own boundaries and sense of self. And then when you add to that the constant messaging we get about these gender roles and values, it becomes really hard to just be yourself and to be alive and to do the things that you're meant to do. And so even as we grow up, these patterns become ingrained and they continue, and at least until we become aware of them. And so we can really end up spending our whole lives basically not really living, just living for other people and hiding who we are. And I just don't think that that's like a way to live.
So how can we begin to heal these issues that run so deep, so that we can really access our power and bring more of ourselves to the world?
Yeah, well, basically we have to reparent ourselves so that we can complete our development and individuation process and really be fully realized as separate and embodied individuals. Although we're all connected to a larger energy of existence, like as humans, we are here in these separate bodies. So the first step is to really commit. You got to commit to your healing, to yourself, and really say, I'm ready to show up for myself. I'm ready to heal, and I'm ready to really invest in my healing. You know, I'm done just living for other people. I want more. And then the next step is to get real. This means we have to face the reality of what has happened in our lives. We have to come out of this denial of everything was great, I don't have any issues, and really come back to the ground. And this can be really distressing, you know, because this denial is a result of basically long-term dissociation of there's something here that's unpleasant and I can't face it. And so as part of healing, we have to really face that. And paradoxically, when we face and accept and own all of our shit, like what's real and true, that's the first step to actually being able to shift it. Because when you're in a place of resistance and rejection and judgment, your energy is tied up in keeping that thing at bay. Again, imagine just like that laugh that you're trying to suppress. And so the next step is to develop mindfulness of your body sensations and to really notice, am I holding my breath? Am I breathing deeply? What's the feeling like? Do I feel energy all through my body? Like, do I feel a sensation in my legs? Am I grounded all the way to the earth? Or am I kind of like floating up here? Am I just living in my mind? Like, if I really check in, where is my consciousness right now in my body? And then to accept whatever you notice. It doesn't mean you have to change it. It doesn't mean, oh, I know I'm up here and now that means I have to come down. No, just notice, and that's enough to start. Then we're going to develop through this noticing and more work to develop increasing awareness of the internal dynamics in our system, what I would call our process. So that's in our body, as well as like our emotional experience and our mind, like our inner dialogue. And this is where we'll start to notice internalized abuse. So again, because you've bonded to whatever came at you as a kid, you know, a mix of good and bad parenting or support or caregiving, it really comes from everywhere, not just parents. Whatever you got, you will internalize that. That's just what kids do. And so that forms the basis of your inner critic, all those voices within that come and make you feel bad, that shame you, that tell you you're not good enough, like anything like that where you're really getting torn down. And then you start to realize that a lot of what we perceive as coming from outside of us, somebody else is doing this to me, they're making me feel bad, they're, you know, whatever it is, we start to realize that's actually coming from inside. That this is actually an internal experience and it's an old experience, that this is something from years ago, this is from my childhood, and this is like an old energy that's just still here and it's coming up now for me to see it. And this is actually good news because it means that we have the power to change it and to actually stop re-assaulting ourselves and stop tearing ourselves down. And so in order to do all of this, we really have to connect. We have to connect with safety and with support, because there's a reason we've stayed up here and not really come down to feel all this. It's because it can be really scary. It can be really intense. There's a reason, like as a child, you went away. It was too much. And so in order to come back, you really, unfortunately, have to come back through that. You have to feel it. You really have to let your emotions come out. And that's how you release the tension. You let these old experiences be seen and felt, so you don't have to hold them anymore. And so in order to do this, it's really important to develop sources of good bonding that provide support and also to overwrite the old experience and the worldview of it's not safe to be me. I can't have my needs met. I can't ask for anything. And so we can do this by connecting and bonding and developing relationships with safe people. So that could be a therapist, a friend, a family member, a mentor, anybody that we feel like can trust, who has our best interests in mind. Or if people are too scary, which can sometimes happen when you have a lot of trauma, you can bond with animals. You can bond with trees. I had a tree at the park that was really central to my healing in the early part of my journey. Or even imagery, spirit guides, any imagery or presence that you can call up that feels like this is safe. I have protection. I also personally have a lion, a lion guide that comes when I feel like I need protection. Sometimes I can imagine a whole circle of lions all around me, and they're here, and like nobody can get in. So it's really like up to you. It's like anything that works for you, that helps you feel safe, that helps you feel like you can exist. And one thing in particular I just want to suggest and offer is that it's really helpful for a lot of us to connect with a source of good mothering, to connect with this archetypal universal mother. You could also know her as Mother Mary, Mother Earth. There's so much love and holding and safety and protection that's available to all of us at all times. And so if that's hard to imagine, if that's hard to connect with, then I would really recommend one book that helped me a lot with this. It's by Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes, and it's called Untie the Strong Woman. This book was absolutely, totally transformational for me, and there was a huge and immediate shift in my ability to connect with this good mothering immediately after I read this book, and that has really supported me in a lot more expansion and growth. And then finally, through all of this, we're just practicing. We're practicing being more with ourselves, being more mindful of our bodies, and gradually expanding, being more real, showing who we are, setting boundaries, asking for what we need. And we start to learn that we actually do have power. We have the power of choice, of how we want to live. And we actually have a lot of courage and a lot of strength within us that we may have become disconnected from through all these experiences. And finally, I want to just emphasize it's really important to be gentle with yourself and to prioritize your needs, because you can't give from an empty cup, as they like to say. When you get what you need, you actually will have more to offer the world around you. So it's not true that it's selfish to get what you need, or it's selfish to ask for help. That's actually the measure of somebody who's well-adjusted and is in connection with their humanity and with other people. And we all need support sometimes. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing to reach out.
I just love this whole process that you've shared, and it feels it's so clear, and it feels really gentle, but also fierce, like fierce love for ourselves, that we've been missing up till now. So really, really wonderful. So I know that one of your specialties, one of your modalities is astrology, and I would love to hear, how does astrology fit in with this work that you're doing?
Yeah. So astrology is a way to get more connected to a bigger perspective and to explore your inner world and learn more about who you are and why you're here on Earth. I mean, for me, again, I had this feeling of I don't know why I'm here. I don't belong here. I shouldn't be here. I don't like it here. And the more that I got to know what my purpose was, I realized, oh, okay, it's worth dealing with the challenges of being on Earth. This is not an easy planet to be on. I believe that we all come here to intensify our development as souls, and through facing a lot of challenges. So astrology is a system of meaning that's based on the apparent positions and movements of the stars, the planets, and other heavenly bodies from an earthly perspective. And although we don't really know how it works, it's kind of a mystery, it's still really a powerful tool for exploring and orienting ourselves to the energetic conditions and cycles of our world, both the inner world and the outer world. And your birth chart wheel is both a snapshot of the sky at the moment that you entered Earth, as well as a holistic representation of you and your potential in this lifetime. And so astrology can help you connect with your higher self and with spirit to understand more like the bigger picture and perspective of why you're here and what your gifts are. There's a lot of validation available for who you are, as well as validation of the struggles that you have. And you can kind of see it in context of, oh, now I understand I needed to have this experience as a child in order to develop more empathy, in order to develop these other skills and abilities that now I can use to live out my mission. And so that you can shift from this place of victimhood of things are happening to me, everything's bad, to, wow, I'm really strong and I have the ability to do all this stuff and look at what I've already been through and survived. And so when we have this knowing of all the parts of self, including the parts we've repressed, there's so much power available. And then, as I mentioned, that astrology provides context. So in addition to learning about our kind of like our energetic makeup and the themes in our lives, we also can then tune in to, on an ongoing basis, the energetic currents and cycles here on Earth. Because again, the natural world is actually cyclical. It's not linear. So we have a year with seasons that go forward in a predictable cycle. And so when we study astrology, we can really tune in and then align with these energies and make the most of the energies that are present to begin co-creating our reality more skillfully and identifying good opportunities to advance our healing, to advance our growth, to take risks and chances and create things. And it's actually like really exciting.
Wonderful. And could you tell us too about the astrology of the moment right now?
Yes. So actually, so as of the date that this interview will be airing, September 24th, we have a full moon in Aries. And the moon is conjunct a planet called Chiron, which is currently retrograde. And the moon is opposite the sun in Libra, which is conjunct or together in the same place with Mercury. So what does this mean? First of all, whenever there's a full moon, this is a moment of illumination, as well as sometimes culmination, that something is coming to fullness, just like the moon is. And there's also a polarity because the moon and the sun are in opposite signs of the zodiac. So in this case, we have the moon in Aries, which is more of like a male polarity. It's a fire sign. It's very assertive. It's sovereign. It's like, I'm going to get things started. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go explore. And I'm just doing what I think and what I want to do. And I'm not really thinking about it too much. I'm just going for it. And I'm not really as focused on other people. And then you have Libra, which is the opposite, which is all about being in relationship. It's all about interpersonal harmony and ease and balance and beauty. And it's an air sign. So it's very idealistic. It does kind of exist in this more of an ungrounded level. And so you could say that Aries is me and Libra is we. And so when we have this kind of split, this is an opportunity for integration, to bring the two together, to find a balance of what can I bring from the Aries, from this fire, from this passion, from this drive, and what can I bring from Libra, of an awareness of relationship and other people and a desire for this balance. And then these other planets that are involved, Chiron, which another astrologer, Eric Francis, has defined as the holistic principle. It's all about healing. It's all about realizing our wholeness in the places that we felt we were incomplete. And currently with it being retrograde, that means that it has an inner focus. So this is really focused on inner healing and discovering more of the full picture of who we are and what's going on within us. And then with Mercury on the Libra side, this is all about communicating. And it's all about, as well as like our thoughts and anything on the mental level. Mercury is all about communication and the mind and exchange of ideas. And so I just see this moment as really remembering our wholeness as beings who are both masculine and feminine. So we're standing in our sovereignty as an individual. We're claiming our identity. the fierceness that we have as these warriors of existence, and asserting our needs and boundaries. And we're moving beyond this Libra model that especially women have of me in the context of you. And we're really claiming this, but we're also bringing this sensitivity and this awareness of the whole and a desire for harmony. And just one final thing, that Chiron is currently at the last degree. It's actually going to be moving backwards out of Aries into Pisces. And it first entered Aries on April 17th. So as it moves at this moment right now, this is kind of a check-in of what was going on at that time and how has that developed up to now. And then it's going to move backward into Pisces again until early next year. And so this is really more, again, a focus of healing, and especially healing patterns of martyrdom, and of self-sacrifice and any lack of boundaries. Pisces is a water sign, is kind of this formless, just sea of all that is. And so this is really an opportunity to see more of where we need to work on these boundaries and where we want to develop a stronger sense of self, so that when Chiron moves forward again and it moves back into Aries, we have like more power and fire available.
Wow. Yeah, this is amazing. And it really feels like this upcoming period that we're entering into is just the perfect time to be doing this work that you're speaking about. So
yeah, absolutely.
Love it. So what is possible for us as we go into this healing work and as we commit to really doing this healing for ourselves?
Yeah. Well, I kind of wanted to say like the sky is the limit. I mean, it's true that there are limitations here on Earth. You know, we're in these bodies and there are forces that do limit us. And depending on who we are, you know, there is real oppression that happens here. It's not just all in your head. It's not this new age idea that we can just completely change everything just with our thoughts. Like, that's just not true. But as I said before, we do have the ability to co-create. We can, like, I have the ability to change how I am. I have the ability to get stronger in myself and to bring forth more of my power. And that's where then when I start showing up in that way, I can influence the world around me. And that's where things start to shift. And again, like, I am an example of someone who went from being painfully shy and just hiding and kind of miserable to being really out in the world and doing work that I love, that makes a real impact, having supportive and loving relationships, and really just feeling like I can be me. Like, I like being me and I know what I have to offer. And like, it's a totally different experience that I never would have thought was possible in my younger years. And so I believe that this is possible for all of us. It really is. And when you start to access this more expansive sense of self, when you start to access and come home to yourself energetically, to come back down to the ground, you will be able to start sharing your gifts with the world, and you will have much more acceptance within yourself, and that will change everything. And the more of us who do this, the more of us who share our gifts, who really work to expand our consciousness, to get more grounded, this is going to make everything better in our world, because we can show up as authentic leaders, and then we can take action to create change. You know, so we're not just healing and then sitting here feeling healed. You know, we're healing so then we can apply that, and that changes how we are in the world, and then we can do incredible things. And so I just want to say one last thing, which is, you know, there's a lot of talk about that we're in this ascension process right now as humans, that we're raising our consciousness, and we're shifting to a new way of being. And I agree. However, I just want to say that this raising of consciousness, it doesn't work by becoming disconnected from the earth. It doesn't work by literally going up into these other layers of reality or of consciousness. It's not about leaving earth. It's actually about bringing these higher energies, bringing heaven down to earth. So I like to say we rise by rooting. And so when we can embody this more expansive way, this more loving energy within ourselves, and then bring that into the world, like, that's how we actually raise the consciousness and heal and transform everything. on this planet, because even if I'm not directly acting as a leader, if I'm not like leading a group or being a teacher or whatever, even if I'm just a person who's going through my day-to-day life, I'm going to influence everybody who I come in contact with. And so when I can have more love within myself, that will naturally radiate out and touch everybody who's in my life. And I just think it's amazing. I think this is a really exciting time to be alive on Earth, although there's a lot of stuff that's scary. I think we have a lot more power than we know. And so I want to help people to realize that and to make the most of it.
I could not agree with you more. Beautifully stated. So I know that you are offering a free gift to the attendees of your event. Would you like to say a few words about that?
Yeah. So I'm offering the opportunity to win one of 10 free soul sessions. Those are my birth chart readings. And this is really a deep dive into your astrology chart. Together, we'll explore the major themes and patterns in your life, your personal gifts and challenges, as well as your soul's overall path of evolutionary growth in this lifetime. And in addition to gaining insight, you'll get to experience the healing power of being deeply seen, validated, and celebrated for who you are and what you bring to the world. And clients tell me that these sessions are life-changing and awakening of their gifts and lead to beneficial shifts in perspective and inspiring a greater sense of empowerment to take meaningful action in their lives. So I'm excited to be offering this.
Yes. And how can people claim those free sessions?
Yeah, well, you can click on the link down below to get the free gift. And then also, I just want to say, if you're interested in working with me, in addition to signing up to win a session with me through this event, which I would definitely encourage you to do because I would love to meet you. You can also visit my website, which is at www.heartblossom.life, Life, and you can click on work with me to see more about different ways that we can work together. And I hope to hear from you because I just know that there's a lot of amazing people here in the audience who have so much to offer the world, and I just want to connect with them and meet them all.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you so much, Stephanie, for this. It has been really wonderful, and I hope everybody will go ahead and click on that link and enter to win a soul session with you. I am sure they're absolutely amazing sessions.
Yeah.
So thank you so much again for letting me be a part of your event. This is just so beautiful what you've put together and all of the amazing speakers that you have coming up here. So yeah, really wonderful. Thank you for doing all of this.
Thank you so much, Jocelyn. Thanks for doing this interview and also being one of our amazing speakers. And I also just want to say thank you to everybody out there who's watching and listening. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being part of this event. Through coming together here, we're really creating something amazing. And I know that you have a lot to offer the world. And so I just want to wish you all the best on your journey. Take care.